from the National News Studio, Sri Lanka.
Good evening and welcome to the National News broadcast, bringing to you live from the National News Studios here at the Sri Lanka Rupavahini Corporation. And we are ready to bring you the top stories here at home and around the world. I'm Charita Minupurarachi. Joining with me today is Vidushini Sadiskumar. An oil ban to Russia from America. The world oil price continues to increase. Solutions to the fuel and power prices in the country by next week. A circular to conserve electricity in state institutions. Imports have been restricted for a limited period. The government says there is no shortage of drugs in the country. The Personal Data Protection Draft Bill has been passed with revisions. A new ceasefire in Ukraine. And like for the current moment, we are dealing with a huge oil crisis, and there are certain consequences of it as well as economically and socially. There are certain restrictions and the practices that we impose as a country. So to discuss with this matter, we have our foreign analyst and senior journalist, Mr. Prasad Kaushal Dodangodake. Good evening to you, sir.
Good evening, Charita.
So like we as a country now suffer with the oil prices, and even there are certain surges in the oil market as well with the world prices. So what is the recent update with regard to that?
Yes, Charita. If we analyze the global energy market data today, we could see a clear upward trend of all oil price indexes. Price of Brent crude oil was hovering between 130 to 122 US dollar mark per barrel, and the other other crude oil prices were also in a very high upward trend. The situation for today's scenario, I mean today's behavior of global energy and oil market, the main reason behind that was the US oil embargo imposed on Russia. President Joe Biden yesterday announced that United States of America will stop importing oil from Russia. Now, if we see America's total oil imports, America imports about 10% of total oil needs from Russia. So, America is in a position to cut down Russian imports because 90% of their total oil needs are not from Russia. So, now if we refer media reports, Charita, we saw very interesting reports that now as we know, United States of America and Venezuela, they were in a very hostile status or during more than a decade or two. But now latest media reports say United States of America is holding talks with Venezuela to get their oil into American market. So this is the situation. Now at the same time, America is holding talks with Saudi Arabia to increase their oil output. So that's how the United States of America is going to fulfill their oil needs after imposing an oil embargo on Russia. However, the situation is different for America's European allies. They depend much on Russian oil and gas because in European energy market, we see there 30% of Russian oil and more than 40% of Russian gas. So they are not in a position, Europeans are not in a position to impose a strict and quick oil embargo on Russia, oil and gas embargo on Russia. So they are going to, they announced yesterday they are going to implement a plan to phase out Russian oil and gas in the coming years. So with all these scenarios, the global energy market became highly volatile. Now if we refer business journals, Charita, there are many reports mentioning or predicting a global economic downturn or recession. And some of these journals written by experts on business and market sectors predict considerably heavy economic impact can be experienced in global level. So, the countries, especially the developing countries, will bear the brunt of this crisis. So, that is the upcoming situation, Charita, and it would we can see it is not in a very good atmosphere in the global energy and oil market. So, that's the situation.
Right. Okay. So thank you very much for joining with us and bringing us the latest update of the global oil market and how it affects the entire global prices and even for a country like Sri Lanka. So thank you very much, sir, for joining with us. And like Vidushini, like we are dealing with a power crisis for the moment, and like with these oil prices fluctuating and not even having sufficient fuel stocks. But like recently, Minister in charge of power has stated that recent announcements that like adequate amount of fuel stocks are arriving at the country. So what is the recent update?
Correct, Charita. Well, the power crisis and the fuel has been the talked about topic, in fact, all around the island these days, because there have been so many hours of power cut and there have been queues with regards to getting full. So with regards to this, Minister Gami Lokuge says that the country is now receiving adequate quantities of fuel stocks, and the minister adds that the prevailing crisis pertaining to petroleum oil and electricity will be fully resolved by next week.
Minister Gamini Lokuge said that they are pleased to say that they have in their possession 20,000 tons of oil. A ship laden with 32,000 tons of oil is being unloaded. Fuel distribution has commenced last Saturday. He added that every distribution centre in the island has been provided with stocks of petrol and diesel. He also said that with the success of the program, it is most likely that queues would not exist in filling stations by next Friday or Saturday. Minister Gamini Lokuge also said that similarly the necessary diesel and furnace oil stocks are being provided to the thermal power stations of the Ministry of Power. As a result, power cuts could be gradually shortened. He also expressed hope that power generation would increase by Monday or Tuesday. He added that by the 15th of this month, the country would be able to supply diesel, petrol and aircraft fuel through funds obtained through Indian Credit Program. The government has issued a public administration circular regarding careful usage of electricity and fuel by the government institutions. It was released by the Ministry of Public Services, provincial councils and local governments. Accordingly, all government institutions should follow several special steps in conserving power. The circular has given instructions pertaining to reducing the usage of electric elevators and suggests to use the staircases as much as possible. It has also instructed to use electric fans instead of air conditioners. All officials should ensure to discontinue the usage of all electric equipment before leaving their offices. Provision of additional fuel stocks to the official vehicles of the ministries and state officials has been temporarily suspended. The guidelines also include to minimize the convening of officials in the outstations to the Colombo head offices for meetings or discussions as much as possible, and also on the deployment of technological systems such as Zoom and Teams for such assembly and discussions. The circular further points out that it is more appropriate at this moment to use motorcycles, push cycles and three-wheelers instead of motor vehicles, including vans for tasks such as transporting and delivery of mail. It also calls upon for the deployment of fuel-efficient vehicles. Another directive of a circular has been the maintenance of buffer fuel stocks in selected filling stations with the objective of carrying forward essential state services such as health and defense. Appropriate programs will also have to be devised with the assistance of the officials of the relevant ministries for the provision of necessary fuel stocks to the farmers in paddy harvesting areas and also to the fishing community. Instructions have also been provided for the processing of a special methodology to inspect how much fuel stocks were saved this month in comparison to the previous month by government institutions, and also on the expenditures of such institutions on electricity, fuel, water and telephone bills. The Secretary to the Ministry of Public Services, Provincial Councils and Local Government also requires the state institutions to encourage the other parties on following the guidelines and setting an example to other groups as well. The Public Utility Commission says that an approval has been granted for a power cut exceeding 3 hours for today as well. Accordingly, certain areas may experience a power discontinuation of 3 hours and 45 minutes and other areas power cutbacks of 3 hours. The Commission further says power cuts are being carried out from 8 am to 11 pm. Meanwhile, engineers in charge of reservoirs say that water levels in the Castle Rig and Mausakale reservoirs, which mainly contribute to the hydropower electricity generation, are declining rapidly. Many archaeological objects which remained inundated in the Castle Rig reservoir were reported to have surfaced due to the declining water levels. The Litro Gas Company says required gas stocks for the local market are being received. A gas ship is already unloading gas. 2 more ships carrying gas for the Litro Company have reached the Sri Lankan sea territory. The company says that therefore the Litro gas supplies should return to normalcy in the next few days. Consumers were seen queuing up near gas sales outlets with shops receiving fresh supplies.
And moving to more local updates and issuing a gazette notification today, the government has decided to restrict imports for a limited period of time, and the process is to be carried out under 3 methodologies. A media communique of the Department of Government Information says that imposed restrictions will be carried out according to the recommendations of the central bank. Under the first system, taxes will be imposed on certain selected import items. The second method deals with making it compulsory to receive permits for the importation of goods. Imposition of taxes and permits in the importation of certain commodities will be imposed under 3 method and the third method. Economic specialists point out that import restrictions would pave the way for a conducive financial stability.
Meanwhile, State Minister Professor Channa Jayasumana reiterates that there is no shortage of medicine in the island, and he was responding to a statement made by parliamentarian Rajit Senaratne regarding a drug shortage in the country. Parliamentarian Rajit Senaratne said that the country is at an extremely crucial state with regard to drugs. He also said that the shortage of medicine prevails at private pharmacies. State Minister Channa Jayasumana said that private drug manufacturers are refraining from selling drugs in anticipation of price increases. Their action leave room for the creation of an artificial shortage of drugs. The minister added that such attempts should be thwarted. The state minister added that arrangements have been made to maintain prices of medicine in proportionate to the dollar value.
An amalgamation of 8 girls' schools and 2 mixed schools into the national school system has taken place in parallel to the International Women's Day yesterday. Prime Minister Mahinda Rajapaksa has presided over the ceremony held in this connection at the Temple Trees. The event has been organized under the 10,000 National School Program according to the Vision of Prosperity National Building Program. The simultaneous unveiling of the name boards to turn the schools into national schools was carried out throughout the internet technology. The Prime Minister via online Temple Trees has included several schools into the national school system on this occasion. The schools fed into the system were Dharmapala Girls College in Puakdandava, Beliat the Yashodhara Girls College, Bibile Devi Balika Girls College Dompe, Mahamud Girls School Kalbune, Vidyartha Central College Kakirava, Swarajanti Central College Kegol, St. Gabriel's Girls School Hatton, Methodist Girls High School Point Pedro, Buddhist Girls School Dankotu and President's Girls School Valahanduva. Accordingly, the number of national schools included in the system has been increases to 495. Minister of Education Dinesh Gunawardena and Secretary to the Ministry Professor Kapila Pereira were also present on this occasion. Governor of the Northwestern Province Admiral Vasantha Karunagoda and State Minister Arundhika Fernando have presided over the ceremony held in this connection with the elevation of the Kirimatiana Buddhist College into a national school yesterday. A computer unit of the school was declared open on this occasion. Governor of the Western Province, Air Marshal of the Air Force Roshan Gunatilaka and Parliamentarian Milan Jayatilaka have presided over the ceremony held in connection with Devi Balika Girls School in Dompe upgrading to a national school. State Minister Kanaka Herath, Tarak Balasuri and Parliamentarian Rajika Vikramasinghe had participated in the event of Swarna Jayanti Central College, Kegol.
Minister Mahindananda Alutgamage said that measures have been taken to break the paddy mafia by purchasing paddy in the Maha season. Addressing a media briefing, In Colombo today, he further said that 200,000 metric tons of paddy will be purchased and the national agriculture policy will be unveiled without delay. Minister Mahindananda Alutgamage said that the 32nd page of the Saubhagya Dakma policy statement of the President mentions on the national policy on agriculture. It further points out that a national policy on agriculture will be drafted and presented to Parliament. He also said that their attention has been focused to increase the contribution for the food network through an agro-based economy. The aim is to move towards a production-oriented economy for a dependent economy. He added that an agricultural war is to be unleashed from next year by cultivating all crops in an extent of 25,000 hectares. He further said that the government has already purchased around 70,000 metric tons of paddy. He also said that large-scale paddy mill owners and some state banks have intervened to prevent the government purchasing 200,000 metric tons of paddy this season. The aim was to import rice. The minister has reaffirmed this commitment to break the paddy and rice mafia. He also said that under any circumstances, the government will keep in its possession 200,000 metric tons of paddy, enabling it to control the paddy price.
And the Personal Data Protection Draft Bill was passed with the revisions in the Parliament today, and government and opposition representatives have expressed their opinions in this regard. MP Lakshman Kiryala said that they expressed their opposition to the draft bill. He added that their objections are based on suspension to the monitoring committee stipulated according to the standing orders. He said that they are also against the Media Organizations Act as relevant groups have not been given time to discuss on this act. Minister Namal Rajapaksa said that MP Kiryala has expressed his opinion without even regarding the front page of the bill. He also said that the bill never exceeds the powers of the Right to Information Act. The minister further said that the Media Act will not curtail the freedom of media persons. He also said that the bill was first proposed in March of 2019. He added that 7 opportunities have been provided since for the industrialists and the people to express their opinion. He added that not a single person have gone to the court against the draft bill.
හැබැයි ඒ සති දෙක ඇතුළත මේ කිසි කෙනෙක් උසාවියට ගියේ නැහැ. ජනතාවගේ දත්තයන් රාජ්‍ය ආයතනයකට ලබා දෙනවා නම්, පෞද්ගලික බැංකුවකට ලබා දෙනවා නම්, ටෙලිකොමියුනිකේෂන් ආයතනයකට ලබා දෙනවා නම්, ඒ ලබා දෙන දත්තයන් පාවිච්චි කරන්නේ මොන කාරණයටද? ආරක්ෂණයක්. මේ රටේ ජනතාවට ලබා දිය යුතුයි කියලා අපි විශ්වාස කරනවා කරු කතානායකතුමනි. මේ පනත කිසිසේත් තොරතුරු දැනගැනීමේ පනත අභිබවා යන්නේ නැහැ. මාධ්‍ය වේදිකේ නිදහසට කප්පාදු වෙන පනතක් නෙවෙයි කරු කතානායකතුමනි.
පෞද්ගලික දත්ත ආරක්ෂණ
MP India's Wakir Marker said that the Personal Data Protection Act is a need of times. Yet he added that the proposed bill changes the right of freedom of many groups.
පාර්ශවයන් රාශියකින් මිනිසුන්ගේ නිදහස් උරුමයන් අභියෝගයට ලක්වීමක් බිය සැක සංකාවල් පළ වෙලා තියෙනවා.
State Minister Shehan Semasinghe said that those who are willing to maintain their status through dissemination of false information may object the draft bill.
Executive member of the National People's Power, Lanka, says that they will not make alliances once again with those who had betrayed the people's mandate of 2015. He has made these remarks addressing a meeting in Kahavatta in Ratnapura. National People's Power Lanka said that they will not join with any party. Different parties are saying different things. He added that some say that they will join either with the SLFP or the Veeravansha Gamanpila group. Lalkant also said some are saying that they are going to join with the SJB. He has reiterated that they have not taken any decision in this regard. The executive member of the NPP also said that prior to forming a government without frauds and corruption, it is necessary to create a party devoid of robberies. He has further stated that a movement will have to be formed to establish a government without frauds and robberies. Lalkanta further said if Sajid Premadasa is to create a new political movement, he had to first of all remove the thieves from the party. He further said that they might consider of an alliance with the good people.
And Vidushini, like art of climbing trees is an onerous task, so the government has measures to provide the national vocational qualification to the tree climbing as well. So this story is about that. The art of climbing coconut trees is an onerous task. If it is a challenge even for the professional climbers, even an unexperienced climber may become a new tree after climbing 30 or 40 other trees. It is a dangerous task as work is to be carried out at a height of around 60 feet from the ground. Today, tappers have to be very careful when treating a grown coconut flower. If they act with a lack of understanding, their efforts would go waste, and with the destruction of the tree, its followers and the not-sturdy trappers also engage in the production of honey and medicines as well. Those engaged in fields believe that coconut trees used for tapping would become more fertile after the operations. However, the traditional trappers are facing many difficulties. Therefore, the Coconut Research Institute has taken the decision to assist in fulfilling their challenges.
Now, Deputy Director General of Health Services Dr. Hemantha Herath says the daily caseload of COVID-19 infections continues to decline in the country during the last couple of days. Well, however, he said that the declining numbers would not reflect on the further easing of health protective restrictions. He made these remarks while speaking to the media briefing today.
Now, there is a relative reduction of cases reported in Sri Lanka. And as a result, there is a notion that people are thinking that the situation is under control and we can relax our basic health requirements and health guidelines that we were adhering to. But personally, I want to emphasize that this is not the case. Still, we are getting over 500 cases a day, and there are a proportion of cases or infected people who do not show significant symptoms or signs, and therefore they do not tend to get investigated or tested for COVID-19. As a result, at any moment there could be a relatively high number of infected people without showing any signs and symptoms. So therefore, it is very important. Even the total number has gone down, the burden on health sector is still high, and the risk of getting infection is still high. And certain other countries, there are new waves emerging, and therefore the same thing can happen even in Sri Lanka, especially during the festive season. Therefore, I would like to urge all citizens of this country to adhere to the health guidelines to the letter as much as possible, and thereby prevent spread of the disease and prevent all possible situations which is conducive for the spread of the disease, and thereby we all could contribute to this battle against this disease, and thereby very soon we should be able to control the disease. Otherwise, there could be new waves, and as a result, and also the emergence of new variants, and all these risks are still there. So therefore, we have to act in a responsible manner. And also, we have got reports about people who are preparing forged vaccination cards, anticipating the implementation of the rule of mandatory requirement for this vaccination card to come into the public places in 1 month or time also. But I would like to tell that will not, using a forged vaccination card, no way will benefit the public or individually. You need to get your vaccination for your own protection, and you need to get the vaccination to protect the community also. So therefore, using a forged card will not help at all individually for you or for the community, and the amount of energies and the money that you are going to spend on these forged cards also will be useless. So therefore, firstly, I would not encourage anyone to resort for such things to get the forged vaccination cards, and also I would emphasize, or I would request all those who are involved in such illegal activities to refrain from doing such activities, because you are going to do a major harm to the community, and you will be also could be a victim of such things, because we are fighting with a natural enemy.
And moving to the world update of the COVID-19 pandemic, and there were certain controversial statements with regard to the death toll and the consequences of the vaccination. Now, a major study of vaccine side effects in the United States has found no link between two COVID jabs and the number of deaths recorded after vaccination. After 4,500 people died after being vaccinated in the United States up to the June 2021, researchers looked at adverse events from nearly 300 million vaccine doses given to the country between December 2020 and June 2021. The results of the study are published in the Lancet Medical Journal. The CDC received more than 340,000 reports of adverse events after vaccination, with 92% registered as mild. The most common side effects were headaches, fatigue, fever and chills. Of the more than 22,000 events recorded as serious, the most common was shortness of the breath. And moving to the Ukraine-Russia update. Now, it's the 14th day that we are dealing with the Ukraine-Russia conflict, and there were certain controversial statements and consequences, and we have heard about a ceasefire with Shuni as well for 12 hours imposed by Russia. So what is the update there?
Correct, Charita. Now, Ukraine has been the most talked about topic with regards to the international news, where Russia and Ukraine, they have been having this war, and especially with regards to the humanitarian crisis, Charita, they have been suffering without water, food, shelter. I mean, those are the most essentials, as we can see, and we have been hearing that there has been a 14-day war that has been continuing, and they have been suffering throughout. So we have more updates with regards to this.
Escape routes are also being set up from Mariupol, Izium near Kharkiv and several towns around the capital Kyiv. A fast deteriorating humanitarian crisis is unfolding in Ukraine, where hundreds of thousands of civilians are trapped in besieged cities without water, food and electricity as Russian troops continue to press deep into the country. Since President Vladimir Putin ordered an invasion on February 24th, 2 million civilians have fled the country in what is the fastest growing refugee crisis in Europe since World War II. Many Ukrainian refugees have entered Moldova since the invasion, with a proportion continuing to Romania, Poland and other countries. United Nations Office for the Coordination of Humanitarian Affairs report indicate that those entering arrive distressed and are heavily affected psychosocially. The UN High Commissioner for Human Rights reported 1,335 civilian casualties, including 474 people killed. Among the dead are 27 children. More than 860 people have been wounded. Kyiv authorities expected to evacuate many more people from Irpin, Bucha and Hostomel. Kyiv authorities expected to evacuate many more people from Irpin, Bucha and Hostomel. In Mariupol, in southern Ukraine, about 400,000 people have been pounded by heavy shelling after the city was encircled by Russian forces. Civilians have started leaving Sumy in private cars after a humanitarian corridor was established for a second consecutive day. The Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky has said that the international community would be responsible for a mass humanitarian catastrophe if it did not agree a no-fly zone, and warned that the country was at maximum threat level. The Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky has said that the international community would be responsible for a mass humanitarian catastrophe if it did not agree a no-fly zone, and warned that the country was at maximum threat level. In his daily televised address, he said Ukrainians had shown throughout the last 2 weeks that they would never give in. EU member states have agreed new sanctions against Russian leaders and oligarchs over the invasion of Ukraine, reports Reuters. The French presidency of the EU said members approved the sanctions at a meeting and that they would be formally adopted by the EU summit in Brussels.
And moving for more stories from here at home, Foreign Minister Professor Peiris says that Sri Lanka has been accorded an extensive support at the Dialogue of Human Rights at the UN Geneva Conference in Switzerland. International cooperation has been extended on efforts of the government for recognition. The minister has made these remarks participating in a media briefing of the Sri Lanka Podujana Peramuna in Colombo today. Minister Professor Peiris said that this was a tremendous victory for Sri Lanka. 31 out of the 45 countries participated in the discussion have directly endorsed the stance of the Sri Lanka government, indicating that the position of Sri Lanka is justifiable. The minister added that the international should recognize the clear decision of the countries. Report of the United Nations High Commission on Human Rights has come under the discussion at a dialogue in the 49th session of the United Nations Human Rights Council last Friday and Monday. Leader of the Sri Lanka delegation, the Minister Professor Peiris, has explained on Sri Lanka's commitment to carry forward voluntary and continuously its obligations on international human rights. 31 out of the 45 countries have extended their support on the position of Sri Lanka. He added that a special feature has been these countries represented in the southern group of the globe. They include Asia, Africa and Latin America countries. The special feature was that some of these countries had earlier held an opposition view on Sri Lanka.
Governor of the Central Bank of Sri Lanka, Ajit Niwad Cabral, says that the central bank has been taking measures since yesterday to control the rupee ratio on a more flexible manner. He further said that the handing over an additional sum in purchasing dollars will also be suspended with the implementation of this decision. Governor of the Central Bank, Ajit Niwad Cabral, said that the central bank has granted permission to act in a more flexible manner in dealing with the depreciation of the rupee value. He added that the opinion of the central bank is that rupee would float at the level of around 230 rupees, but it may also go up higher or go down as well. The outcome would depend on the demand and supply on foreign exchange.
And with this news, ChannelEye Rupavahini Corporation, the national television has secured a tremendous landmark event and a victory actually with regard to this international arena. And the story is about that the two creations directed by Ranga Bandaranaike on the national television have been selected for the Input International Television Conference, and it is the first occasion of selecting two selections of a director at once for the conferencing. The two selected creations are New Year single episode teledrama El Hale Kiribat and For You the Disappear documentary for the 2020 Input Television Conference as well. Christmas single episode teledrama Saapalat Smarne directed by Ranga Bandaranaike was selected. However, the 2020 Input Conference was able to conduct due to the prevalence of the COVID pandemic. Ranga Bandaranaike remains the director whose creations were selected continuously for 2 years for the conference. 86 creations from 36 countries have been selected. The aim of the Input International Conference is to appreciate television programs of the optimum level of the television institutions. The Input International Conference is scheduled to be conducted in Barcelona city in Spain from the 9th to the 13th of this May this year.
Well, the International Women's Day was on 8th of March, and with regards to this, Dialogue has been having an exhibition. Many island-wide programs have been organized in parallel to the International Women's Day of 2022. They are being implemented by the State Ministry of Child Development, Preschools and Primary Educations, School Infrastructure Facilities and Educational Services. The Dialogue Institute is extending sponsorship of the programs. The main Women's Day ceremony was held at the Bandaranaike Conference Hall yesterday. The theme of the event was She is a Country, a Nation and a World. The programs organized in collaboration with the Dialogue Institute are to be conducted island-wide till the 7th of next month. One of the programs is scheduled to be conducted at the Suhurupaya premises in Battaramulla on the 11th of this month. Well, with regards to adventure tourism, Charita, now tourism and especially adventure tourism has been one of the main topics, and we all know that tourism is something that we need for our country, and with COVID pandemic we haven't been able to get or attract many tourists to the country, but this time we are proud and lucky enough to host this Raid Amazon program. I'm sure you have more details on that.
Yes, exactly. And the Raid Amazon program, which is being organized in different countries of the world, is to be conducted in Sri Lanka as well. And this program of high tourist attraction, which brings entertainment through thrilling experience to the tourists. So a meeting to educate media in this regard was held in Colombo yesterday. Several institutions, including the Ministry of Tourism and the Sri Lanka Airlines, are extending sponsorships. More than 550 French tourists are scheduled to attend the program to be conducted in Sigiriya. Many sports events with adventurous natures, including rowing, cycling, archery and travelling along rough routes with the aid of a compass, are included in the program. The first stage of the events are scheduled to be conducted from the 14th to the 22nd of this month. The second stage is scheduled to commence on the 28th of this month and end ends 5th of April. More than 3 billion rupees are scheduled to be spent for the promotional activities in this connection. Minister of Tourism Prasanna Ranatunga said at a media briefing that this would be the biggest attraction of a program to be conducted in Sri Lanka after the COVID pandemic. And with that, we conclude tonight's news. Do just tomorrow at the very same time. Stay safe. Good night.
Good night.